Audie Murphy was America's most decorated soldier of World War II. He killed 240 enemy soldiers, earned the Medal of Honor, and faced death more times than most people could imagine. But when he arrived in Hollywood, he discovered a different kind of battlefield, one where survival meant hiding who you truly were. Murphy saw things others couldn't: the pain behind perfect smiles, the exhaustion in carefully rehearsed answers, the fear that lived in every public appearance. Before his death in 1971, he revealed the truth about 8 Golden Age legends who were forced to live double lives. Stars whose careers depended on a lie so complete that even breathing felt dangerous. If you want the truth Hollywood tried to bury, hit subscribe, because this story refuses to stay hidden. Rock Hudson, the heartthrob living in terror. Rock Hudson was everything 1950s Hollywood demanded: tall, handsome, masculine, and romantic. His films opposite Doris Day made him one of the industry's biggest stars, and teenage girls across America dreamed of marrying him. But every smile he gave on screen, every kiss he delivered to his leading ladies, was part of an elaborate performance that extended far beyond the movie set. Hudson was gay, and that truth could have destroyed everything he'd built. Universal Studios knew it, his agents knew it, and Audie Murphy knew it too. Murphy and Hudson moved in the same social circles, sharing agents and military respect. Hudson had served in the Navy during World War II. According to those close to both men, Murphy recognized something in Hudson's eyes that he'd seen in his own mirror: the exhaustion of maintaining a false front, the psychological toll of living a profound lie. Murphy understood what it meant to carry secrets, and he saw Hudson carrying one that grew heavier with each passing year. The studio went to extraordinary lengths to protect their investment. They arranged a marriage between Hudson and his agent secretary, Phyllis Gates, specifically to silence rumors about his sexuality. The wedding was publicized extensively, presented as a love story, when it was actually a business transaction designed to preserve Hudson's marketable image. Murphy never judged Hudson for the deception, he judged the system that made it necessary. Behind closed doors, Hudson lived authentically with male partners, conducting relationships in complete secrecy while maintaining his public persona as Hollywood's most eligible bachelor. The constant vigilance required to separate these two lives created a burden that Murphy recognized as similar to combat trauma. Always watching, never able to fully relax, living with the knowledge that one mistake could end everything. Cary Grant. The Sophisticate's Hidden Truth. Cary Grant defined elegance, wit, and sophisticated masculinity for generations of moviegoers. His charm seemed effortless, his timing impeccable, his presence on screen utterly magnetic. He was the man every woman wanted, and every man wanted to be. But according to Murphy's private observations, Grant's perfect public image concealed a more complex reality that included a lengthy domestic partnership with fellow actor Randolph Scott. For nearly 12 years, Grant and Scott lived together, sharing a home and an arrangement that generated whispers within Hollywood, but was carefully presented to the public as an economical bachelor situation. The studio system worked overtime to craft alternate narratives, orchestrating publicized relationships with women, and eventually arranging marriages for both men. Murphy allegedly told a friend that Grant and Scott weren't just roommates. They were the only honest thing in that house. What impressed Murphy about Grant wasn't just his ability to maintain his public image, but his creation of a private space where he could be authentic, at least for a time. The home Grant shared with Scott represented a rare zone of truth in an industry built on carefully constructed illusions. According to those close to Murphy, he viewed this arrangement with a mixture of respect for Grant's navigation of an impossible situation and sadness at the necessity of such elaborate deception. Murphy recognized in Grant something he understood deeply: performance as both professional skill and survival mechanism. Grant played straight better than anyone, on screen and off, creating a character so convincing that the line between performance and reality had blurred even for Grant himself. The mask had become a prison, and Murphy saw how it trapped one of Hollywood's greatest stars in a role he could never escape. Anthony Perkins, the actor broken by secrecy. Anthony Perkins created Norman Bates, one of cinema's most iconic characters, a man torn apart by conflicting identities and desires. The performance captured something raw and psychological, a duality that resonated with audiences in ways few could articulate. According to Murphy's observations, Perkins's portrayal of a man living with hidden truths reflected his own off-screen struggle with sexual orientation in an industry that demanded complete concealment. Perkins was gay, conducting relationships with several men, including a significant romance with actor Tab Hunter. Yet he eventually married photographer Barry Berenson and fathered 2 sons, maintaining a public image that conformed to studio and societal expectations. Murphy recognized in Perkins someone whose authentic self had been so thoroughly suppressed that it created a constant internal tension, visible in his performances but carefully hidden in public appearances. Unlike some closeted stars who seem to compartmentalize their public and private lives effectively, Perkins appeared to internalize the conflict. The psychological cost was visible to those who looked closely enough, and Murphy looked closely. He'd seen the same exhaustion in combat veterans who couldn't speak about their experiences, and he recognized a similar burden in Perkins, the weariness that comes from maintaining a fundamental deception about one's identity. Murphy reportedly believed that carrying secrets eventually poisoned something essential in a person. The strain wasn't just about hiding romantic relationships, it was about denying a core aspect of identity every single day, in every public interaction, with every carefully worded interview answer. Perkins carried that burden until his death from AIDS-related pneumonia in 1992, more than 2 decades after Murphy himself had died. For Murphy, Perkins represented a particularly poignant example of Hollywood's human cost. Genuine talent shaped and sometimes distorted by the need to conform to artificial standards. Raymond Burr, the principled attorney's double life. Raymond Burr became one of television's most beloved figures as Perry Mason, the principled attorney whose moral clarity and commitment to justice resonated deeply with American audiences. Week after week, millions watched him defend the innocent and expose the guilty, never suspecting that the man himself was maintaining one of Hollywood's most elaborate deceptions. Burr was gay, and he went to extraordinary lengths to hide it. Burr created an entire fictional biography to protect his secret. He claimed to have been married 3 times and to have lost a son to leukemia, none of which was true. In reality, he lived for over 30 years with his partner Robert Benavides, whom he met on the set of Perry Mason in 1960. Their relationship was disguised as a business partnership, with the 2 men establishing an orchid-growing business and a vineyard together, conducting their life in plain sight while maintaining the fiction of a professional arrangement. Murphy recognized what Burr was hiding. According to those close to both men, Murphy told a director, "That man's hiding something big." But Murphy's observation wasn't judgmental. It was empathetic. He understood that Burr's entire career would have collapsed if the truth had become public. Perry Mason couldn't be gay in 1960s America. The character's authority depended on conforming to societal norms, and any revelation about Burr's sexuality would have destroyed the show's credibility with audiences. What impressed Murphy about Burr was his ability to create a zone of authenticity in his private life while maintaining his public facade. Unlike some closeted stars who lived in constant isolation, Burr established a lasting relationship and built a life that, while hidden from public view, provided genuine emotional support and connection. Murphy saw in this a different kind of courage. Not the obvious bravery of battlefield heroics, but the quieter courage of creating authenticity within constraints. James Dean, the rebel who refused to be defined. James Dean embodied youthful rebellion and tortured sensitivity in his brief but explosive film career. His performances in East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant created a cultural icon whose influence far outlived his tragic death at age 24. According to Murphy's observations, Dean's magnetic screen presence was connected to a complex sexual identity that defied the rigid categories of his era. Dean was different from the other stars on Murphy's list. While most carefully compartmentalized their public and private lives, Dean brought a provocative ambiguity to both his performances and his public persona. His friendships and relationships with both men and women fueled ongoing speculation about his sexuality, creating a mystique that became part of his enduring appeal. He didn't hide exactly. He existed in a space of strategic uncertainty that was dangerous but authentic. Murphy initially dismissed Dean as all posing, according to those close to him. But his assessment evolved over time. He came to recognize in Dean's refusal to conform completely to Hollywood's heterosexual expectations a genuine form of courage. Unlike the elaborate deceptions maintained by Hudson or Burr, Dean's approach was different, neither complete concealment nor open defiance, but a kind of fluid ambiguity that created space for authenticity while maintaining career viability. Murphy had little patience for artifice or affectation, yet he eventually recognized in Dean something genuine beneath the carefully cultivated image, a true refusal to compromise essential aspects of identity despite professional risks. Dean's sexuality remains debated among historians, with various biographers offering different perspectives. This ambiguity itself may reflect the most accurate understanding, an identity that resisted the binary categories that dominated the era. For Murphy, Dean represented a different kind of resistance to an unjust system, and he came to respect it as its own form of bravery. Marlene Dietrich, the icon who refused to hide. Marlene Dietrich brought European sophistication and provocative sensuality to Hollywood, creating an iconic screen presence that challenged American conventions of femininity. Her trademark tuxedos, sexually ambiguous performances, and unapologetic independence made her unique among Golden Age stars. According to Murphy's observations, Dietrich's screen persona reflected a personal authenticity rare among performers of her era. Dietrich was bisexual, and unlike most stars of her time, she made little effort to completely conceal it. Throughout her career, she had relationships with numerous men and women, maintaining a marriage to Rudolph Sieber while engaging in affairs with leading Hollywood figures of both sexes, including actresses Greta Garbo, Edith Piaf, and Mercedes D'Acosta. In European circles, this was more openly acknowledged. In America, publicity emphasized her relationships with men while carefully downplaying her affairs with women. Murphy and Dietrich shared a bond forged during World War II when both were committed to entertaining troops. Despite her German origins, Dietrich became an outspoken critic of Nazism, renounced her German citizenship to become American, and spent extensive time entertaining Allied troops near the front lines. She earned military honors from the United States, France, and Belgium for her contributions. Murphy reportedly said Dietrich was the bravest of them all, on the battlefield and in the bedroom. What impressed Murphy most was how Dietrich refused to apologize for who she was, even when such honesty carried significant professional risks. He saw in her a different kind of courage than his own. His was the immediate bravery of combat, while hers was the sustained courage of living authentically in a world that demanded conformity. Both were genuine expressions of character, and Murphy recognized and respected both equally. Montgomery Clift, the brilliant actor. Broken by secrets. Montgomery Clift brought a new kind of masculine vulnerability to Hollywood, creating performances of such emotional depth and sensitivity that they transformed screen acting. His work in films like From Here to Eternity, A Place in the Sun, and The Misfits established him as one of the most gifted actors of his generation. According to Murphy's observations, Clift's extraordinary talent was inseparable from his experience as a gay man forced to hide his authentic identity. Clift was deeply closeted, and unlike some stars who maintained stable private lives despite public deception, he struggled profoundly with the psychological toll of hiding his sexuality. His increasing reliance on alcohol and prescription drugs reflected a deepening internal conflict that ultimately contributed to his early death at age 45. Murphy reportedly called him the best actor in the world and the loneliest, recognizing in Clift a mutual burden, two men living with profound secrets, though of very different kinds. A devastating car accident in 1956 permanently altered Clift's appearance, but according to those close to Murphy, the war hero believed Clift was broken long before the crash. Murphy recognized in Clift's eyes something he'd seen in combat veterans, the exhaustion of constant vigilance, of never being able to fully relax into one's authentic self. The weight of maintaining such a fundamental deception created a visible strain that informed his most powerful performances while taking a devastating personal toll. What impressed Murphy about Clift was how the actor channeled his personal struggles into performances of extraordinary emotional truth. Despite the fundamental deception required in his public life, Clift brought rare authenticity to his screen work, drawing on his own experience of internal conflict and hidden identity to create characters of unique psychological complexity. Murphy believed great art often emerged from personal pain, and he saw in Clift someone who transformed the very constraints that caused him suffering into the raw material of brilliant performance, a kind of artistic alchemy that Murphy deeply respected. Tab Hunter, the all-American boy. Living in fear. Tab Hunter epitomized the clean-cut American ideal of the 1950s, blonde, handsome, athletic, and unfailingly wholesome on screen. His popularity with teenage girls made him one of Warner Brothers' most valuable young stars and the subject of countless fan magazine features about his romantic life. According to Murphy's observations, Hunter's public image represented one of Hollywood's most complete fabrications, a carefully constructed facade hiding his life as a gay man. Hunter's studio-crafted public image included publicized dates with starlets and co-stars, manufactured romances, and carefully managed public appearances designed to reinforce his heterosexual appeal. Meanwhile, he conducted his actual romantic life in complete secrecy, including a relationship with Anthony Perkins that remained hidden for decades. Murphy reportedly told a friend, "He's a good man, and that town's going to eat him alive," recognizing in Hunter someone whose natural decency was being strained by the constant deception required to maintain his career. What particularly concerned Murphy about Hunter was the vulnerability created by the stark contrast between his public image and private reality. The greater the disparity between persona and truth, the more catastrophic the potential consequences of exposure, and few stars of the era embodied a greater disparity than the wholesome Hunter. His entire career was built on a false narrative about his personal life, making him exceptionally vulnerable to the threat of revelation. That threat nearly became reality in 1955 when Confidential magazine published a story about his arrest at a limp-wristed pajama party years earlier. Only his studio's aggressive management of the situation and his own careful public response prevented the incident from destroying his career. This brush with professional disaster underscored the precarious position of gay performers in the studio era, living constantly with the knowledge that one exposure could end everything they'd built. Audie Murphy understood secrets. He carried the trauma of war his entire life, living with memories that never fully faded and pain that never completely healed. When he looked at these 8 Hollywood legends, he recognized something familiar: the exhaustion that comes from maintaining a public face while hiding essential truths. These stars weren't just actors playing roles on screen, they were performing every moment of their public lives, creating and maintaining personas that denied who they truly were. Murphy died in a plane crash in 1971, never living to see how many of these secrets would eventually be revealed. Rock Hudson's AIDS diagnosis in 1985 forced the conversation Hollywood had avoided for decades. Tab Hunter's 2005 autobiography finally confirmed what Murphy had known 30 years earlier. One by one, the truths came out. Some while the stars were still alive. Others only after death had freed them from the consequences of honesty. These 8 legends created some of Hollywood's most memorable performances while living with a burden that never lifted. Their stories raise questions that still resonate today. How much does secrecy cost? What does it do to the soul to deny fundamental aspects of identity? And how many brilliant careers were shaped or destroyed by an industry that demanded lies? If this story changed how you see Hollywood's golden age, share it, because these legends deserve to be remembered for their full truth, not just the carefully constructed fiction the studios sold.